able to seal him. Here's the pass. Oh, what a catch! Leaping into the air and pulling it down is T. Higgins. Burrow facing pressure, goes over the top, wide open is Chase, and he splits the defenders for the touchdown. That's live. Back the other way, Sam Hubbard, the Cincinnati kid. Hubbard's got a convoy, chased by Andrews at the 30, the 20. He will score.
Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. Maan, we need a win bad. We need a win bad this weekend, and we are hearing that from everybody in the building at Paycor, players, coaches. I think everybody in this organization knows how important this must-win game is that we are going to talk about tonight. The Arizona Cardinals, the Bengals travel out there and play a very scrappy football team on. But we're going to talk about all of that. Before we do, we are going to talk a little Bengals with you guys, go over some numbers, and see how we got to 1-3. Maan, how's your week been so far?
Very, very busy. A lot going on at work and my other job. Just a really rough stretch. It's going to be this way for another couple weeks. Sort of refreshing in a way, keeps my mind off the Bengals. But you're right, it's a must win. It's very important. And Arizona has really, they are scrappy. That's the good word for them. Their roster is not very good, but you wouldn't know that because they could easily be 3-1 right now. They lost some heartbreakers to the Giants. They had a lead in the fourth quarter. They lost to the Commanders. They had a nice lead. They were getting blown out last week, but then they came back and made it a game against arguably the best team in football, the 49ers, and they really took it to the Cowboys and upset them 2 weeks ago. I think we're going to get a really good effort from the Bengals. I expect them to do well this week. We'll talk about that more later on, but Arizona is scrappy. You're right.
Well, let's talk about Maan before we get into this game, because I mean, you know, I'll be honest with you. I thought right now, I mean, there wasn't a doubt in my mind that we would not be sitting here right now talking about the 4-0 Bengals being ready to be 5-0. And Maan, this team has struggled. And you know, I know we're not saying anything that hasn't been said already on every Bengal podcast out there, but where do these struggles come from? I mean, I think there's a lot of different things you can point at. Let me throw these numbers at you real quick. These numbers, Maan, will blow your mind. If you have not seen this already, there is no way on this earth that you and I thought we would be talking about this Bengals team right now sitting at 1-3 with these numbers. Listen to these numbers, Maan. Right now, the Bengals' total offense ranks 32nd. Now, Maan, how many teams are there in the NFL?
32.
We have the last ranked offense in the NFL. Unbelievable. The rush offense, Maan, something that you and I have harped on. Maan, the rush offense is 31st in the NFL. Again, there's 32 teams. The pass offense, Maan, with all of these incredible receivers, with a upgraded offensive line, with one of the most elite quarterbacks in the NFL, the pass offense is 29th in the NFL. Scoring offense, again, this is obviously the reason we're 1-3. 31st in the NFL. 31st, Maan. 31 out of 32 teams we have scored worse than. Total defense, and I think this is really the crazy one coming up here. The total defense right now ranked 24th in the NFL. The rush defense, Maan, who would have thought the Bengals are ranked 31st in the NFL? 31st in rush defense, Maan. Pass defense, 14th. But again, those numbers probably kind of skewed when a team is rushing for 250, 300 a game on you. They don't really have to throw the ball. You know what I mean? Scoring defense ranked 18th in the NFL. The only thing, Mon, and probably the only reason right now that the Bengals are 1-3 is the turnover differential. They are tied for 12th, which is pretty solid. Mon, I throw those numbers at you. Give me the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear those insane offensive and defensive numbers.
Lack of complementary football is the big one with me. You can obviously we could trace it all back to Joe's calf, and that has a lot to do with it, but it's not the only reason. I can make points. Everything you read is stunning. It's hard to believe, but when you have 6 first downs against the Browns and your defense is on the field 35, 36 minutes of a game. Last week they were on the field 36 minutes of a game. There's only been one game out of the 4 where we had more time of possession than the other team. So 3 of the games, the Bengals defense has been on the field a lot more than the offense. Of course, the defense has to get some stops on third down, giving up all those rush yards. Trust me, there's a lot of blame to go around on the defense, but the lack of complementary football is hurting them. It really is. It's stunning. It's stunning. I just, I got so much going on in my head right now. All these stats you just brought up. Joe is basically a statue right now. His mobility is limited. And we know Joe Mixon is 4.8 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, career high for him. For the Cincinnati Bengals to be 31st in the NFL in rushing to me is ridiculous. That number should be much lower, but we just don't run the ball a lot. A lot of it has to do with playing catch up. I get it. We've been behind in some games. We can't run as much, but there's been a lot of opportunities where a run should have been called instead of deep passes. Joe Mixon is playing energized football. Let's ride the run game a little bit. Give Joe a few more weeks to get healthy, get a little more mobile. I don't know, Jake. Those are shocking numbers. Another thing concerning the defense, I tweeted this. Von Bell, Jesse Bates, we really miss them. The guys that have replaced them are more athletic. I get that. Dax Hill has played very well, but that communication breakdown, the Bengals defense has given up a lot of explosive plays, 15, 20-yard plays. They gave a handful, I think 15 last week, if I'm not mistaken, 7 in one quarter. That we can't have. The Bengals, that was one of their specialties last year. They didn't give up those explosive plays. And I think we're seeing a breakdown of communication in the defensive backfield. I think that number will go down when those guys get a little more experience, but not having them, I think it really hurts. I think it's hurting this defense.
Mon, listen to this. Well, let me ask you this first. What is a crazier stat to you? That the Bengals rush defense is the second worst in the NFL, or that their offense is the worst in the NFL? Honestly, give me your honest opinion. What is a crazier stat to you?
The offense is worse in the NFL. I think if they were 16th, the rush defense wouldn't be anywhere where they are. I mean, the defense, we've played 4 NFL football games, Jake, but if you look at the snap count, they've almost played 5 games when you think of the snaps, the amount of snaps the defense has been on the field. And I honestly think, I think the most shocking of that is the struggles of our offense. It's shocking. It really is. I don't want to jump around here, but we were talking off camera about Callahan's press conference and some of the things he said. Nobody expects him to rip up the playbook and start all over with 3 practices. We know that's impossible. That will never happen. But I just can't believe how they can't adapt and adjust a little bit more, especially with the limited mobility of Joe Burrow. Last week, Jake, I watched, believe it or not, a replay of the Titan game. They were sending 7, 8 people, and the Bengals had 6 guys to block. Yeah. And why was Joe getting pummeled? He got hit so many times, didn't count as sacks, but he really got clobbered. They were sending the kitchen sink. I expect the Cardinals to do the same, and hopefully the staff, they know football better than I do. Hopefully they protect them a little better than what happened last week.
Yeah. Well, let me throw these out here before we move on real quick. Joe Burrow right now, 728 yards through the air in 4 games, Mon. That's not even an average of 200 yards passing a game, which to me is just crazy. A 57% completion percentage. Obviously, Joe Burrow's worse. Joe Mixon, we go down to the run game, 59 carries, 247 yards, Mon. He's averaging over 4 yards a carry. Why are we not running Joe Mixon more? I agree with you 100%. Jamar Chase right now leads the team in receptions with 29, just under 300 yards. Jamar Chase, Mon, does not have a touchdown reception through 4 games. I mean, again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but these numbers are they're so crazy to me. I can't wrap my mind around these numbers, Mon. I look at this roster, and I'll stick to what I said in the beginning of the year. This is the best roster that I can remember that this football team has had. Is it Joe Burrow's calf? Mon, I don't think we can hang a 1-3 on just Joe Burrow's calf. Maybe it has a little bit to do with it. Maybe Joe Burrow is just that incredibly good that every play he makes outside of the pocket changes the game. I just have a hard time believing that, Mon. I've coached football for over 20 years. I have a very hard time believing that we can put all of this on Joe Burrow's calf. I think on both sides of the ball right now, I'll be honest, I think we're getting out coached. And I hate to say that. I'm not trying to be this downer right now, but I think we have to, as Bengal fans, I think we have to look at this very realistically and understand that, are these coaches putting these players in the best position to be successful? And I say no. Mon, what do you think?
I think you have valid points there. I think the Bengals anticipated a big jump from some players, second-year players, Cordell Volson, Zach Carter. I'll throw Cam Taylor-Britt in there. These are second-year players. They're expecting a leap. Only 4 games. We got 13 to go. We got a lot more. Let's face it, Volson has looked okay at times, but he hasn't really taken that leap, at least not yet. Zach Carter has struggled. I've saw some tape of him, some breakdowns from other people on Twitter. He's got some work to do. Cam Taylor-Britt had a rough game last week, still has a very bright future. They're expecting these big leaps from these players playing key positions. It's not happening yet. You can blame the coaches on that also, or they're in charge of development. Hopefully, a lot of fans are critical of the way the Bengals prepare for the season in training camp. Maybe that's going to get talked about more next year. But they're struggling, Jake, and I agree. I don't agree with some of the play calling. You got to look at the coaches. The coaches are the ones that have to develop a game plan. They have to get the players ready. They have to make sure these players are executing. You can only look at the coaches. And I'm not trying to be negative, but I mean, who else are you going to look for? If a player's not performing or doing what you want him to do, you take him out. Replace him. Don't keep on marching him out there thinking, hey, man, the light bulb's going to come on. The light bulb's going to come on.
Yeah.
That's part of coaching. Bring up somebody from the practice squad, somebody that's hungry, somebody that's ready to play. Maybe that's what they need to do. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Game 5 is coming up. The first quarter of the season was a little rough. Let's take off and let's start playing some ball, guys.
Mon, I think we go back to that Tennessee game, and I think for me, and I said it after the game, the missed tackles in that football game were just unbelievable. Again, that's something that we have not seen from this Bengals defense in 2 years, is missed tackles. Eric went over the stat with us before we went on air. 12 missed tackles. I know somewhere I had heard from one of the coaches on the Bengals staff said it's the most missed tackles the Bengals have had in a game in like 4 or 5 years, Mon. Again, things that we are not seeing from this defense. And we look at Joe Burrow. This is right now where we are with Joe Burrow. Josh Dobbs, Mon, the quarterback that we're going to see on Sunday for the Arizona Cardinals, Josh Dobbs has almost 100 yards more passing than Joe Burrow and has a 70% completion percentage to Joe Burrow's 57. That to me is just insane. It's insane. And again, is it Joe Burrow's calf? Is that where we are? Is to put all of this on his calf? I want to hear from you, our listeners. Guys, comment in the comment section. Let Mon and I know what do you think it is. Can we put all of these issues on Joe Burrow's calf? I don't think so. I really don't. I think Joe Burrow now is at a point where he is able to go out and play successful football. I just don't know if he's being put in the best position to play successful football. And again, maybe part of that comes from not running the football. Maybe part of that comes from not getting him into a rhythm. I don't know what to pinpoint it on because there's so many issues with this football team. The only positive right now with this football team on offense is that they're only averaging giving up 2 sacks a game, which is not a good stat either, but that's really the only positive we can look at. Mom, we have rushed for 280 total yards in 4 games, Mom. 280. That's it. It's crazy.
Jake, I agree with you, but a lot of it has to do with playing catch up. I think that might be a reason he abandoned the run. But at the same time, Zach is not a run heavy guy. We're a pass first offense. Joe's injury is limiting him and the offense. It's not it's not the whole reason we're 1-3. It is one of the main reasons. It is like I said, we're not playing complimentary football, but Jake, he's a statue right now. He's not as mobile. He's not going to be able to scramble around. The offensive line has to do a better job. And this is on the coaches also. When the other team send in 7 or 8 and you got 6, the numbers don't add up. You got to do something about that. The blueprint was set with the Browns game, and everybody's doing it. They're coming in, they're blitzing Joe Burrow. Last year, nobody wanted to blitz Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Expect the Cardinals to do that. Jake, I got some stats for the Cardinals. You just read off the stats for the Bengals. Let me read off a couple for the Cardinals. Points scored this year, the Cardinals are 18th in the NFL with 22 points a game. That's 10 more than the Bengals. Points allowed. The Cardinals' defense is tied 25th in the NFL. They've given up 25.5 points a game. Offense. Total offense. The Arizona Cardinals are 12th in the NFL, 337 yards. Here's the stat that scares me. They're 6th in the NFL in rushing, averaging 143 yards a game. Josh Dobbs has some wheels, and so does Connor, the running back, the ex-Steeler. The Cincinnati rush defense better be ready for that. Passing, they're 22nd with 194 a game. Total defense, this is their Achilles heel. They're tied for 26th in the NFL. They give up 374 yards a game. If there's going to be a get-well game for the Bengals, it could be this game because their defense is struggling a little bit. They're 24th rush defense, and their 24th pass defense. Their defense gives up 132 yards to the opponent's rushing, and their Arizona pass defense gives up about 242 yards a game. So if our offense wants to get healthy, this is going to be the defense to get healthy against. I think I listened to a podcast today. The Cardinals have given up 45 points. Given up 45 points in the fourth quarter. It's like worse than the NFL. So they're having a hard time closing out games. We can't. What concerns me the most, they're rushing. Connor and Dobbs can run the ball. I don't want a game like the Ravens game where we only had 7 possessions. That's their goal. Control the ball, keep Burrow on the bench. Our rush defense has got to step up. Zach Carter, Hill, Reader, you got to step up this week.
Agreed. I mean, I agree 100%. Again, I think it's shocking right now that D line is struggling so badly stopping the run. Let's look at this Arizona Cardinals team that we are going to see on Sunday, Mon. Josh Dobbs, we've talked about him a little bit already. James Conner, you just mentioned him as the running back, somebody that the Bengals are very familiar with. The ex-Pittsburgh Steeler, James Conner. Receiver, you have Marquise Brown, Michael Wilson, Rondell Moore, and then Zach Ertz, the tight end. Again, not a formidable group of receivers, Mon, but Tennessee didn't have a formidable group either, and guys were running open all over the place. This offensive line, Mon, comes in a little banged up. Again, just like the previous couple teams that we've seen, we got another offensive line banged up. Will Hernandez, the guy that you and I both liked coming out of the draft a couple years ago. Froholt, who is their center, is banged up as well. He is questionable. We'll go over the injury report here in just a couple minutes. Defensively, Mon, again, I look at this team defensively, and a guy like Ledbetter, who is one of those starting defensive linemen, you can see right there on the injury report, he did not practice today. What does that mean? Well, we'll see. Again, you see Hernandez, Froholt, those guys right now banged up on that offensive line. But again, Mon, I look through Josh Woods, one of their starting will linebacker. He's on the injury report as well with an ankle issue. He's questionable right now. Kazir White, again, I'm just naming off names here that are I'm somewhat familiar with, but this is really a defense, Mon, with a lot of guys that you wouldn't know their name if I said them or what position they played, but they are scrappy. They are a scrappy defense. This is a defense that shut down the Dallas Cowboys a couple of weeks ago. Tell me, Mon, again, you just talked about earlier, if this is the get right game for the Bengals, okay, against a defense right now that is struggling stopping anybody, what is the Bengals game plan going in? You tell me, Mon. What is this game plan? Are we looking at Joe Burrow as being a healthier quarterback right now, where we can put more weight on his shoulders that we haven't already put on there, or are we going to come out and just run smash mouth football, which we have not seen from the Bengals all year? What do you think, Mon? Is this the game that maybe we see Joe Burrow under center a little bit, where we can start running some play action stuff off of the run game? What do you think, Mon? What is going to be this Bengals offensive game plan to get right if this is that get right game?
I think the Bengals need to develop a little better flow on their offense right now. I think with Joe's injury, everything is just out of whack, and the way the game's developing, only having 6 first downs that first game, they really couldn't get their mojo going. They need more than 15, 20 rushes a game. Joe Mixon deserves 20 carries at least. The other running backs combined get maybe 5, 6, 7 more. Let's get 27, almost 30 carries a game. Let's run the ball. Eat up the clock a little bit. Let us play Raven style football. Let's limit possessions for them. Come down, smart, complementary football. Our defense has been on the field a lot 4 games. Let's let them rest. I think let them come in, do what they need to do. I don't want the time of possession to be 36, 37 minutes for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's do it. Let's have it a little bit like the Rams game where it was almost 50-50. I think the Bengals had 34 minutes time of possession that game. Let us control the clock. Let us control the tempo of the game. Let us control the line of scrimmage. Last week, we said it after the game, I have never seen a Bengal team pushed around like that, moved around like that on both sides of the ball. We can't have a redo of that. The Cardinals are going to be blitzing and sending people after Joe Burrow. Let's make them pay for it. If we make them pay for it, get a long completion, just pick them apart, they'll blitz less. But smart football, complementary football, no turnovers, we win the game.
And I mean, I agree with you 110%. This Cardinals team, listen to this stat. The Cardinals defense right now comes into this game with 12 sacks as a defense. 9 of those 12 sacks, coming from linebackers. 9 of the 12 sacks, coming from linebackers. Yes, the Arizona Cardinals are going to blitz the hell out of us and try to create issues inside of that pocket if Joe Burrow has to stay inside of that pocket. Pass protection is a must this week because, again, that's what these teams are seeing right now, that Joe Burrow is having to stay in that pocket. And the best way to disrupt this offense is to collapse that pocket as fast as they can. 9 of the Cardinals' 12 sacks, coming from the linebackers.
Yeah, they're going to come at them. And like you mentioned it perfectly, you said they were scrappy, and they are. You could easily make an argument they should be 3-1. And at the beginning of the year, everybody was convinced they're in the market. They're going to be the number one draft pick in this next draft. Their roster isn't that great, but they are playing. Yeah, teams like that scare me. I mean, they're playing with such passion, such energy. It doesn't matter where they were drafted. If they're undrafted free agents, these guys are coming in and busting their tail. And Cincinnati is going to have to come down there. If the Bengals are who they think they are, a Super Bowl roster, a team that can make a run this year, they have no business losing this game. We need to find a way to win 1 week at a time. Beat Seattle next week. I know I said 1 week at a time. Let's jump to the next week. If we get to 3-3, that's a total reset of the season. We have 11 games remaining after the bye, 6 of them at home. 6 of them. There's a lot of football left to play. Let's win this week. Let's take care of business the next week, and then reset the roster. Or reset the season.
Eric brings up a good point to us too, by saying, is this a get back game for Lou getting snubbed for this job? Is Lou extra motivated? I don't know if he is, Mon. I think Lou is just a motivated guy, internally motivated guy. I'm not sure that this is his thought process is a get back game, but you never know, Mon. Coaches have egos, and we all do at whatever kind of level it's at. So very interesting to see if Lou comes in with a little bit more. Again, I don't know if he's got a little bit more motivation coming in, but we will see. It is interesting, though. Remember, he was a lot of people thought he was snubbed for this Cardinals job.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying it was a blessing in disguise. You didn't get it because of the turmoil they had and Kyler Murray's injury. I'm glad Lou's still on the team. I know we've had a rough month. I'm glad he's still coaching our defense because I think he's a special coach. Jake, I want to mention something that was said in Dan Hord's podcast after they lost to the Titans. I think they interviewed, it was Cheeto they interviewed. And Cheeto was talking about after the game, they, you still there? You there? There you go. After the game, Cheeto was talking to a lot of Titan players that he's known for years. And he said the Titan players told him that the coaching staff for the Titans were so embarrassed after the Browns loss, they did nothing but ride them all week. And those guys were just so motivated and pumped. They said that there's no way the Bengals are going to beat us because the way the coaching staff absolutely was just obsessed with that horrible loss they had against the Browns. Hopefully our staff is doing the same thing right now. We can't have what happened in Tennessee. We can't have that again. And so hopefully they take it out on the Cardinals this week in Arizona.
Well, we had the Bengals injury report up there just a minute ago. Let me just real quick touch back with that. Mon, you have right now T. Higgins out with what we found out was a rib issue. We've heard all week that T. Higgins wants to play through this injury. It'll be very interesting to see if he does. Honestly, I don't think him not practicing today, I don't think that makes a difference with him playing on Sunday. I think it's going to be if he can play through the pain type of a thing. Ribs are really funny, Mon. they're so hard to heal. Sometimes you do have to play through rib injuries, and it's very painful. So we'll see what happens with T. Akeem Davis-Gaither still having that knee issue. He also did not practice today, but everybody else practiced in some form of another. Cheeto shows up on the injury report today. He was not on there yesterday with a little bit of a back issue, but again, he is a vet, so might have been a vet type of a day today for him. Cam Taylor, you can see he did not practice yesterday. Today, he does practice on a limited basis, so he's going through that concussion protocol. Everybody else, full go. Orlando Brown Jr. was on there yesterday, limited. He went full today, as well as Irv Smith Jr. comes back and hopefully gives this Bengals another weapon on offense. So going to be very interesting to see, Mon, when the report comes out right before game time to see who the inactives are, to see if T. Higgins is going to play in this football game.
Yeah, the T. Higgins, I would be surprised if he played, Jake. He's, Wednesday and Thursday he did not practice. I just don't see him playing. I expect to see him play his next game in San Francisco. I think the Bengals might rest him 2 weeks. I hope I'm wrong because, T. Higgins is that special player. I just don't want him to re-aggravate that and it be a longer injury. It could be Yoshiva's time. Cam Taylor Britt being cleared from concussion protocol, that was good to see because I'm still high on him. I know he had a rough week last week. Cheeto, he's the leader. He was on a pitch count a little bit. He's starting to play a little bit more, knocking off that rust. We need them two back there. Just got to win this game. We got to win this game, and we got to get to 3-3.
Before we go to predictions, Mon, I just want to talk about this real quick. I love the story this week of Zach Taylor and Jamar Chase. And I don't know if you heard the presser with Zach Taylor early on in the week when they asked him, hey, what do you think about what Jamar Chase said? And Zach said, I absolutely love it. That's what I want to hear from my guys. He said Jamar, he thought handled it really well. He approached Jamar in the locker room. They had a very good positive exchange. Jamar talked about that. Jamar said it was the first time that he ever heard Coach Taylor cuss, which I thought was funny because Coach Taylor basically said, hey, great job with the interview. I, effing loved it. So I think this team, and you hear Logan Wilson talk about the brotherhood. This team is not going to fall apart. It's not going to collapse. I think that's one thing that we know for sure right now is that this football team is so solidified in this locker room. You hear Joe Burrow say things like, this is a must-win game for us. This team right now is still very much connected. Mon, a win this Sunday and a win next Sunday going into the bye 3-3 would be absolutely huge for this team. You have said it now for a week. Reset it because if you go 3-3 into the bye, you are going to reset this season and save it. Right? That's where we're at right now is these next two games is to save the season.
It is. It is. I was sitting there playing roster gymnastics today on my phone. We need to get to 9 to 10 wins to get to the playoffs. 1 week at a time. I keep on saying 1 week at a time, then I jump to 10 wins. 1 week at a time. Let's beat the Cardinals. Let's do some predictions.
Hey, let's do some predictions. And right now, Mon, when we talk about predictions, let me say this. I'm still alive. I said 14-3 when the season started. We're 1-3. Bengals, I just need you to win 13 in a row and get us to that 14-3. All right, let's go, Mon. Here we go. Predictions. An interesting week. The Browns have a bye week, so we don't have to watch the Brownies' disgusting highlights this week, which is good. Ravens at Steelers, Mon. This is a big game in our division right now. The Ravens right now, Mon, 2-0 in our division. Going 3-0 would be huge for this team. Mon, Ravens at Steelers. The Steelers looked terrible last week against the Texans. Who you got, Mon?
Yeah, the Steelers look absolutely terrible on offense. I don't know if Pickett is playing. That might be a plus. The Ravens and the Steelers always play tough games. They always play tough games. Apparently, Pickett was back at practice. Thank you, Eric.
Yes,
Uh,
he was.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I love what Mike Tomlin said last week after that horrible game against the Texans. He was asked by one of the press members, Are there going to be any changes?" He goes, "Yeah, there's going to be changes." I love that. He's going to hold people accountable. You can't go out and lay an egg like you did against the Texans. Trust me. We talked about Cheeto talking to the Texan players and how the Titan players and how the
Titans.
Titan players were getting lit up by the coaches. I guarantee you the Steelers are doing that to their players. The Steelers are going to win this game. It's going to be 24-20 over the Ravens.
I'm going to agree with you, Mon. I am going to agree with you. I think the Steelers win this football game, not only because we need them to as Bengal fans, but I agree with you. I think the Steelers are going to bounce back after laying an egg. This is in Pittsburgh. The Steelers always play the Ravens tough. It doesn't matter how good either one of those teams are. This is going to be a slugfest, Mon. I'm going to say Steelers win this 17-14 in an absolutely horrible game to watch, but a slugfest nonetheless in Pittsburgh. All right, Mon, the big one. Bengals at Cardinals. Joe says it's a must-win game. I say it's a must-win game. Every Bengal fan on this planet, Mon, says this is a must-win game for our Cincinnati Bengals. Are they going to win this game, Mon? What do you think?
I think the Bengals offense has their best game of the season. I expect Joe to play an efficient game. He's not going to be explosive. Get about 200 yards, 220 yards passing. I expect the rush attack for the Bengals to really play well. Joe Mixon will get 100. I think the Bengals will get about 130 to 140 total team yards on the ground. Cincinnati is going to win this game. The defense is going to get them some good field position. 34-17. 34-17 Cincinnati over the Cardinals.
I'm going to agree with you. I got it.
What?
I know. I hate doing that, right? I don't know if I've ever not picked the Bengals to win, but I'm going to agree with you, Mom. I'm going to agree with you. And I'm going to say this. Jamar Chase is going to score the first touchdown of this game, Mom. And that is going to carry this offense because I will tell you this right now. If Jamar Chase gets in that end zone early, Mon, this offense will be electric. Again, in 4 games, that man has not seen the end zone. That is a travesty, Mon, an absolute travesty. I think this Bengals offense absolutely goes crazy. I think Joe Burrow and the rest of these guys are embarrassed. And I think Joe comes out and lights it up. I'm not even going to say 220. I'm going to say this guy comes up and he's going to light this thing up like the 4th of July. I'm going to go Bengals 37, Arizona 14 in a game on that is not even close. And I think a game that the Bengals know they have to win. This locker room is full of leadership. There is no way the Cincinnati Bengals lose this football game in Arizona.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I think they're going to win. I'll give you a hot take. Yoshida scores his first NFL touchdown.
Ooh, that is a hot take. I like that. What about Irv Smith? Give me Irv Smith's stat line. Irv Smith, what's his stat line this week?
3 catches for 20 yards. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he's coming off that hamstring. It's a chronic
you said
issue.
that. The way you said that was just so like you're just so disheartened.
I'm not. Listen, I just don't. I don't think he's 100%. I still expect big things from him. I think your guy Hudson's going to play well. The tight end's just not an important position to the Bengals offense. I wish it was, but I think Yoshivas is going to play a lot because of Higgins. I expect him to have 5, 6, 7 catches.
Well, I'm going to say this. Tanner Hudson is going to score a touchdown this week. Tanner Hudson will score a touchdown. and Jamar Chase will score the first one of the game, and our Cincinnati Bengals will be 2-3 after Sunday. Please, 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 God, make that happen. All right, guys, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. As always, if you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the awesome podcast platforms, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. If you go on there and you like this podcast, please give Maan and I that 5-star review. We very much appreciate that. As always, follow him at the Fire Maan on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Coach Jake Owens 9. Follow Eric, our producer, at eFlash with 2 H's 88. Follow the Bengals Pulse on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse 9 on Instagram. The same without the at.
Bengals Eric, say hi. Come up, Eric.
9. Where's Eric at? There he
say
is.
Hi.
Eric.
Good day, all.
Bud?
Big game. Big game.
Big game. And as always, guys, make sure you check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Wincinnati Podcast Network. Gentlemen, we have got to win on. Get this done.
We locked up. Hey, is everybody coming to my house?
We're still on.
Okay, good. Yeah, we are.
Everybody's invited to Maan's house.
No, I know we are. You locked up for a second.
Hey, everybody! When you said everybody, do you mean all of our listeners too? You want just everybody? Everybody! Hey, we got to break out the ice cream cake, right? We have not broke out the ice cream cake yet. He is Maan. I am Jake. That is Eric. Hooday, Bengal fans. We will see you next week.
Hooday. See everybody at Maan's.